Get me that signal. We need more power.
Professor William Dyer was a professor at our very own Miskatonic University, all the way up to his disappearance in the 1950s. Back in the 30s, he was part of a large team that set out on a much publicized and doomed expedition to a then almost unexplored Antarctica. Only Dyer and a student named Danforth ever returned from this expedition, and Danforth had been driven mad by what he saw. The professor left an incredible account of ancient cities and horrific creatures that no human had ever laid their eyes upon. Most dismiss his account as a work of fantasy, and Dyer always refused to release his journal, which contained the actual journey to and location of this city of ancient death. Professor Dyer disappeared while walking in the woods outside of the university, and it's said that he used his journal to open a gateway and enable him to return to the plateau of Lang to see with his own eyes the horrors that had driven Danforth mad. The legend says that once every 30 years the planets align and the planes of our dimension and Lang overlap in those very woods, and the professor appears, mad as a hatter but still trying to return home, only to disappear a short time later, forever trapped in a hellish world that is not his own. Today is the day that the alignment is supposed to happen, and I'm here to see if the legends are true. Will the professor appear in the woods beyond the school? Will he be alive, or will he be dead? We will find out together. Okay. The light has gotten very strange now, and I found something. And I think it is what we're looking for. I believe we are looking on the remains of Professor Dyer. Yeah. This is it. I think this is it. Yes. Excellent. All right. I don't know how long the worlds will be crossed. We gotta read this right now. Let's take a closer look at the Mountains of Madness expansion to Eldritch Horror. As you can see, there are a ton of components that come with this, including a new sideboard, 8 new investigators, 2 new ancient ones, a bunch of mythos cards, a bunch of cards in every other deck, some new types of cards, which we'll go over, and a whole slew of tokens. Just so much that comes in here. Not even all of it is out here, but let's take a look at the board first. As you can see, you have 6 new locations on this board, and it is really not huge, not small either. But let's take a closer look. You've got the dreaded Plateau of Lang, which if you spend a clue or you test your lore and pass that, you can move to any space on the board that contains a gate. So you can go straight from here to any space on the board that has an open gate on it, which is kind of nice. Plus, of course, there's a bunch of monsters there waiting to eat you, but, you know, what are you going to do? City of the Elder Things. Test your observation. If you pass, gain 1 clue, or spend 1 clue to gain 1 artifact. Very sweet. Not the easiest to get there, but if you do, it's pretty sweet. As you can see, there's 2 new types of encounters here. You've got the yellow types and the light blue types, which are 2 entire new decks. There's no normal type, like general encounter, though, that's not considered city or wilderness or sea on any of these. You just have these types of encounters, plus research encounters for clues. Frozen Waste. After an investigator resolves a location encounter or a research encounter on this space, he may move to the City of the Elder Things, or the Lake Camp. So you can go here or here. Yeah, nothing big there. The Snowy Mountains. You can improve 1 skill of your choice there. The Lake Camp. You can get the Dog Sled unique asset. See? Which is pretty nice. Unique assets we'll talk about shortly. Miskatonic Outpost. Gain 1 ship ticket. And or test your influence. If you pass, gain 1 Antarctic Guide unique asset. Think about Miskatonic Outpost, it's automatically connected to Antarctica. So if you're in Antarctica, you can switch over to Miskatonic Outpost, and it doesn't cost you an action, and vice versa. Now let's look at more of the game. You've got 8 new investigators, including Finn Edwards, and they all have nice new actions that make them wonderfully powerful. Tommy Muldoon, the rookie cop. You've got Daisy Walker, the librarian. Agnes Baker, the waitress. George Barnaby, the lawyer. And he also looks like, not Dumbledore, Gandalf. Ursula Downs, the explorer. Wilson Richards, the handyman. And Patrice Hathaway, the violinist. For example, Finn Edwards, the bootlegger. Effects can't cause him to discard his item, trinkets, or ally possessions unless he chooses to, which is awesome because there's this Mythos card that I've gotten twice now, which makes you discard 1 of everything, and it really, really completely sucks. Every character has to discard 1 of everything, including items, spells, allies, lobster bisque, everything. Another big thing in this expansion that you'll hear a lot about are the focus tokens. Now, focus is a new action that you can perform, which is nice because, let's face it, a lot of times you're just waiting around for the encounter to happen. You're not sure exactly what to do. Well, you can now get up to 2 focus tokens, one per turn, and these can be spent to re-roll dice. They also can be used for other effects from various cards, but that's basically just like a clue token allows you to re-roll dice if you want. But who wants to waste a clue token on re-rolling dice? You only do that in the direst of emergencies, and it never works out the way you want to. Well, now you have these focus tokens that you can get, and you feel less bad about it. And you desperately need them when facing at least one of the goos. We have 2 new goos, great old ones. Ithaca is new, and he's starts at 13 on the Doom track. And each investigator gains a hypothermia condition unless he spends 1 focus every time there is a reckoning. So you want to always have 1 of those on hand, because getting hypothermia really is not fun. The Rise of the Elder Things. Now, he's got a 16 Doom, and it takes 4 mysteries to win the game away from these Elder Things. But the nice thing is, after an investigator resolves an otherworld encounter, he can move to the Plateau of Lang. Well, how does this Antarctic board come into play? Well, we've got these new Doom Prelude cards. Yes, you can start each game by selecting a random Prelude card. And it gives you a little story to tell you how things start. And some of these are really, really cool. I only wish there were more than 6. And the Doomsayer from Antarctica card actually instructs you to set up the sideboard. And if you've got the Rise of the Elder Things out, then one thing happens. And if you don't, then you would start using these new Antarctica adventures. So we've got these awesome Prelude cards which start the game. One of them actually has you start with dead investigators already on the board, and you got to go check their bodies and get some clues from off of their dead bodies, and you get 2 artifacts from that as well. I mentioned the adventure cards. This is a whole new thing as well. There's Antarctica Adventures, and these are just things that can distract you, and they can have beneficial. They're like side quests, and they're labeled 1, 2, and 3. After you solve a number 1, you can move on to the number 2, and then you can move on to a number 3, if you so desire. And basically what they do is you've got this little adventure token, just like you have your expedition token, and that's on the board. You go there, and when this card enters play, place an adventure token on the Amazon. When this adventure is completed, retreat Doom by 1. Then draw an Antarctica 2 adventure. As an encounter, an investigator on the Amazon may examine the clay tablets and soapstones he finds among the alien ruins by testing his lore. If he passes, the relics are inscribed with an ancient text that tells of a distant past. Complete this adventure. So then you would move on to Adventure 2. And that's a little side thing that they threw in, which is awesome. And of course, it distracts you from completing your main quest, which is Fantasy Flight's plan to have the great old ones take over the world, I think, because they added all in these great things to do on the side. For example, we now have these unique assets in the game, and they have things like tomes. And a tome can end up having something really nice happen for you. I'm not going to show you the backs. There are now tasks. You can complete tasks. And when you do, thing on the back, whoop, that happens is really usually pretty good. You can have unique character allies now. So you can actually have, here's Danforth from the actual Lovecraft story. You can have him as an ally. So it's not just Joe Schmo the ally. Here's a courier run. That's a task. And there's all kinds of, here's your dog sled. All kinds of unique things. And it's a complete deck. And some things that, like tasks, can be distracting. They can end up helping you in the end, though, if you manage to get it to advance the active mystery, which can be great. There are also a ton of new cards. There's 2 new decks for locations. There is a new research deck for Antarctica. And there are now these wonderful double-sided reference cards, which really, really come in handy, listing, the different mythos icons, the different actions you can do, including the new one, gaining 1 focus, and the types of encounters that you can have depending on where you're at. All of this and more. I will not play this game again without this expansion, because this expansion is awesome. And that is the Mountains of Madness expansion to Eldritch Horror.
Let's take a closer look at the Mountains of Madness expansion to Eldritch Horror. What do you want to know about the Mountains of Madness expansion to Eldritch Horror? I can tell you this. There has been a lot of talk on how this expansion makes the game easier, much as the Forsaken Lore expansion made the game more difficult. I don't know about that because I haven't played Forsaken Lore, but I did find at times that Mountains of Madness was easier than the base game. Why? It isn't the focus tokens. I welcome their addition to the game. Not only do they give you another action to perform when you have no actions that you can do on your turn, like when you're waiting to encounter a monster, for example, but I don't feel bad if I use them for re-rolling dice like I do when I use a clue token. I hate using clue tokens to re-roll dice because they're such a valuable asset. Now I can do it guilt-free. It isn't the great old ones. One game I thought that I was kicking Ithaca's butt, but suddenly I realized there were 3 blue gates open on the board. And the Doom track quickly dropped to 2 via a couple of Mythos card pulls and other cards that advanced the Omen track. We still pulled out a win in the end, but we had to kill Ithaca to do it. The first game we played against the Elder Things wasn't even close. We whipped them soundly, but this was a combination of some excellent dice rolls when we needed them and some easy Mythos pulls. The second game we played against them, they slaughtered us. The unique assets are a great addition. You can really start to develop a story around these cards, and they can bring a different feel to each and every game, mostly because it will take a lot of plays before you see every one of these cards, and that's what I like. I want every game to feel fresh. I want every game to feel fresh and the possibility that things will go away I've never seen before every time that I play. That's why I like the Prelude cards, too. It's because of the additional story that they add to the game. My only complaint is that there isn't more of them. With only 6, and only one of those really brings the Antarctica sideboard into play, the setups will get old fairly quickly. One of the Preludes enables the players to get 2 artifacts almost immediately. And this does help the players out quite a bit. But the premise is so cool that I can't complain about it. You start with 2 dead investigators already on the board. It appears that they were investigating the case before you were, and things didn't go well for them. You get to examine their bodies and gain an artifact off of each one. Just excellent. Speaking of Antarctica, the board is a great addition to the game. There are some really useful location actions, and there are enough cold-related cards added that I found myself feeling the cold on those snowy mountains and the desolation on the plateau of Lang. Here's one overlooked item that confuses a lot of players. The locations on the Antarctica sideboard are not considered city, wilderness, or sea spaces. They are their own type and have their own decks of encounter cards. Effects that require you to be on a city, wilderness, or sea space will not happen while on the new sideboard. The Antarctica adventures were a great addition. They bring some new and interesting variety to the game. It's another distraction for the players, but I just couldn't resist them. I was adventuring, and it was fun. I got back to the monster hunting business eventually. The addition that I thought made the game a bit easier was the new Advance the Current Mystery effect that was added to the game. There are some tasks, encounters, and tomes that can result in having you advance the current mystery by adding a clue or eldritch token, or whatever the current mystery needs. In effect, you can bypass the requirements on the mystery card by earning the tokens outside of the normal requirements. While this gives the players new incentives to acquire these tomes and complete those tasks, it kind of nerfs the mystery side a bit, especially in the games with a lower number of players. If the current mystery requires you to earn Eldritch tokens equal to half the number of investigators, and there's only 2 of you, then one Advance the Current Mystery effect will allow you to completely bypass that mystery. And I don't like that. It does come in handy when you get the really difficult mysteries, though. Overall, this expansion is a must-buy for any Eldritch Horror fan. If you must, you can always adjust the difficulty by staging the Mythos deck, as the rules suggest, or starting with a rumor already in play. I really enjoyed this very thematic Lovecraftian game, and will be adventuring again soon at the Mountains of Madness. Thank you for joining me in this review of the Mountains of Madness expansion to Eldritch Horror from Fantasy Flight Games. Let me know if you found this review helpful by leaving a comment or sending me an email at elliot_miller@voiceofe.com. Make sure to subscribe to the Voice of E channel on YouTube.